We are now moving into an opportunity of listening to and engaging with three of our folks here. Yeah, so what we actually will do now is to listen to them when they share something from their everyday work with media from various perspectives, roles, strategies, practices, however they want to phrase that. And I think it's very natural to start with ladies first. Solfrid, would you like to share first?
Yes. Let's see if I can share my screen. For those of you that were here the first day, you already know some of what I'm doing, but my name is Solfrid Brennhovd. I live in Norway. I work in Norway. I have been working with the Damaris team for quite a lot of years. What you see now is my website. I'm the editor responsible for this site, which provides material on apologetics and on popular culture. Those that were able to listen to the session Sunday, you got a few examples of what we are doing. I have a small team of writers that covers different areas. But personally, I am mostly analyzing popular culture, music, movies, TV shows. Margunn Serigstad and I had just finished a draft for a book that is due to be published this fall. And we have done some research on media and worldview formation for young adults. Mostly, I write short analysis for articles in magazines and newspapers. Once in a while, we get asked to analyze on a deeper level. And that's how I got to write a larger report on the controversial reality show X on the Beach. And it has happened that this kind of material has opened doors for engaging in public debate. This is not a door that I have chosen to walk through too many times, but it gives us access directly to the TV stations many times. A little more than a year ago, I wrote a piece for a national Christian newspaper on Billie Eilish and her single, All the Good Girls Go to Hell. My father, raised in such a different age, he called me afterwards and said, I've never listened to this kind of music. I'm never going to listen to this kind of music. But the way you describe it makes me see why we have to engage, because she speaks into so many young lives. Because I would like to describe what we do mostly as equipping and motivating others. The work we have done through many years as Damaris and in collaboration with churches and other organizations has in my mind been a part of educating and equipping a new generation, young people that is so focused on integrating faith and occupation. They are relating to culture, they are finding and using their voice in public debate, they are relating to culture, getting more confident through networking, apologetics, and Bible study, and they are brave. I am a mother of 2 tweens and a teen. And talking to other parents, I have more and more become aware that it's crucial that we make this material available for younger children as well. This is why I'm so happy to present one of the most recent and exciting projects we have done. It's called The Gaming Pastor, more or less precisely. The main goal is to engage in a world that can be quite rough for young gamers, but the pastor also invites guests of all faiths to talk about difficult questions when they are playing, and the movies are posted on YouTube. And lastly, one of the projects we had is building up our podcast, and it's gaining more and more listeners. So we feel that we are part of equipping young Christians to integrate their faith in their lives. So.
Thank you very much, Solfrid. That was a lot of interesting and important material in a short time, and we may add that Ann-Christine here is the project director for the Gaming Pastor project. So later on, if you may want to enlarge on that, Ann-Christine, if we want to have the possibility later on. So thanks a lot, Solfrid. Let's move from there. We'll come back to you and engage with that, but let's move to Finland. Pasi.
Thank you, Lars.
Describe yourself. I mean, Solfrid was presented somewhat more on the first day, but you are joining us today. So give us a glimpse of your life in Finland.
Thank you, Lars. It sounds like Eurovision when I hear the Pasi Finland. It's wonderful. It's great to be here with you. In a way of small introduction, I've been doing Christian radio broadcasting now for about, I think, close to 30 years. If I may share a very short glimpse of my my life, this would be it. That's our radio studio. However, radio is only a small part of our ministry because Patmos is missions and relief organization. So we do missionary work, church planting, support Bible translations. We do humanitarian relief and all kinds of things. And radio is one part of our ministry and one part of our mission. Christian media, particularly Christian radio media, is quite young in Finland, actually, because all the way until 1985, Finland had a media monopoly by government radio, YLE, which is equivalent to BBC in Great Britain. And in 1985, this radio monopoly kind of opened up. Local commercial radio stations began mushrooming all over Finland, and our ministry was first Christian ministry to start broadcasting on those local commercial radio stations after 1985. And I joined this work in 1990. So we had, at best, we had radio programs in over about 24, 25 stations across Finland until Christian radio station Radio Day started in Finland in 1995, I think it was, and we got our own radio station in 2011, I think it was, called Radio Patmos. So that's the short, brief history of a Christian radio ministry here in Finland. So there are only two Christian radio stations in Finland. Of course, we are a very small country. We are only about 5.5 million people, 187,888 lakes, 1.5 million saunas, about 3 to 5 million cellular phones. That's Finland in a nutshell. Innovative country. So Christian media is quite young. Of course, we have also Christian television here. I think that one of the challenges of Christian media here in Finland has been that when Christian media started both in television and also in the radio, Christians and the churches, they kind of moved their services into TV screens or in radio frequencies. Namely, they became talking heads and preaching voices. And I think we haven't yet reached the point where we could really engage people with the great stories besides what the preachers are able to tell in the radio. I find most attractive feature in the Christian radio ministry that I'm involved with, the live call-in programs where you engage the audience directly. So people can call whatever questions they have about Christianity, Bible, theology, Christian life, or anything. And every night that we have that kind of program, every Sunday night actually, it's like an adventure, because you never know what's going to happen and who's going to call with what question. And sometimes, I would hope more often, but so far very few of unbelievers also call to the Christian radio station. And those have been one of the highlights, I think, during these years when also non-Christians call and a little bit challenge you with your Christian faith. I personally feel my calling to be an apologist and Bible teacher. So I like all these kind of questions that challenge Christian faith. And I find radio is a very good media also to engage in that.
Thanks a lot, Pasi. So fascinating, the name Patmos.
Yep.
So
it's in the scripture.
Yes, we may come back to that.
Yeah.
Thank you. And of course, Damaris we heard about. That's also a scriptural reference. So that's one link there. Thanks a lot. And Tony.
Thank you.
Turn my microphone back on. Yes, so you've heard a bit from me already, but my media involvement is quite varied. I have been working in the area that we call media awareness, media analysis for, well, a long time, probably about 30 years now. The center of what I do really is teaching and training people, Christians primarily, about understanding and responding to media. Particularly, how do we understand and respond to mainstream secular media? So analyzing films and literature and television programs, those are my main areas. Philip Pullman, British atheist author, with his Dark Materials trilogy and various other books, has been one of my particular interests over that time. Film is another one. Done a lot of work on film, 1 or 2 books along the way as well. I'm writing about Philip Pullman again at the moment, which is fun. Nice to be back in that world. And that teaching and training happens in a wide variety of contexts. Some of it at Give 'em the Column, where Lars is, and go over there and teach on the Communications and Worldviews course, and a number of other contexts as well. So that's kind of big picture stuff. So I'm combining the big picture, how do we understand media as a whole, the impact of media technologies. So part of my work is that. Part of it is also focusing down onto what is this particular story telling us. And of course, there's a constant two-way relationship between those. How does the particular fit into the general? How does the general drive the other? And that requires me to bring in both theological perspectives, philosophical perspectives, sociological perspectives, media studies. So there's all sorts of different angles to it, and it's a very rich scene to explore. To take Lars's word again, not that it's his word. So that's the center of what I do. At the moment, a big part of my work is my PhD, part-time PhD, which is looking at specifically at the relationship between the Old Testament prophets and contemporary film and television, because alongside all my media work, I'm also a Bible teacher, and I suppose I have to say these days a theologian. I still feel slightly reluctant to using that label of myself, but that's the world I'm now operating in. So bringing biblical studies in with the rest of that as well is very entertaining. And then there's the Lausanne Media Engagement Network that Lars has already mentioned a couple of times. So and Rudolf, you've heard from briefly. So Rudolf and Lars head that up, and I assist them in that, in the Media Engagement Network. Could just very briefly share the website with you. Hopefully you see that. In case you just, there we are. There was a website. You've seen them before, but that's the Media Engagement website, engagermedia.info.
Thanks a lot, Tony. So it seems to me that we still have 3 minutes maybe before the breakout group. So interesting to, when the three of you reflect on each other's roles and callings. I mean, to me, it clearly comes up that there is this Bible and the world, you know, like John Stott put it, double listening to the word and the world. You know, 2 out of 3 talked about being a Bible teacher as a central part. And those of us who know Anne Solfrid knows how important that is for you as well, Anne Solfrid. So could you comment on that dimension when you heard the 2 others? Pasi, you heard Anne Solfrid and Tony. What did you reflect on when you heard them?
Well, I think it kind of it shows that the media work can be very rich, and we don't have to think only through in a very simplistic way what media can do and what media can accomplish. And there's also a lot of potential. I was somewhat envious when I was listening to Anna and Tony of the wide range of thinking of how they're applying the media to reach the people, because I think that in one way radio, which have been my main area, radio is a kind of an old media, and I think we need to find new creative ways of reaching out to people. The radio audience tend to be a bit from the older demographics over there, and younger people are more using internet and other kind of media. So I think there's a lot of important things, and I would love to talk with Tony about movies and all these kind of things, stories, because I think there are lots of which we can also use to open up the Christian message. And I'm not talking about Christian movies particular, but really stories from the secular movies.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I'm always happy to talk about movies.
Yeah,
we can start from the Terminator.
Yeah. So just before we move into discussion groups, it seems to me that yes, radio might be in its traditional forms from a previous phase and then moving into, but we have all the audio productions that are, like the podcasts today, which
True.
are really, it's radio, but it's in a way produced in a different way.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating when we look at each different media format, how it becomes a new phase, and it's possible to adapt that. Yeah. We heard from 3 different countries. And the question is, to what extent can we translate or apply what is relevant in one context to another context? It might be very different. So how can we learn from one another? Any of you would like to comment on the way that that could happen, learning, encouraging one another across different countries?
I suppose I have a little awareness of this in that I do go and do stuff in other countries, particularly Norway, but we live in a globalized media world, so there is a remarkable degree of commonality at some level. There are some media products that transcend national boundaries. So some of Hollywood films, for example, many of those would go cross-culturally, and of course many wouldn't. So there are both very specific local issues, national issues, national media things, and more widespread ones. So we can, but even the local ones, they still relate to the globalized picture, because there are these big shifts particularly within Western culture, but more widely in terms of the dominance of the secularism narrative, which needs to be questioned, but nevertheless the idea that we are becoming more secular is very much out there. A lot of people have bought into it. The reinvent yourself. My identity is entirely fluid, as the sociologist Zygmunt Bauman says. Identity is no longer a fact but a task, and that kind of idea is a global idea to a significant extent, and so that manifests itself not just in the global media but in the specific national media. So there are ways in which we can talk to each other and share common concerns without necessarily, it doesn't necessarily need to be the case that we share all of the same media or even much of the same media, because those kinds of concerns are still the same. So we can still learn from each other, I think, in a significant way.
So there are, as it were, two levels then. One is challenges we share across, and the other one would be the context specific ones. Could you possibly look at the chat and see there are two questions to you there? And
yes,
then Fred, building on from what we talked about now, I know that you in your work often go to different English speaking websites and resources, and then you think about how to apply that to a Norwegian context. So how does that kind of process work? For example, at Snakk om tro, talking about faith.
It's important to remember that we talked about this in our group, that I see things from a Western point of view. So some of the content produced in the UK and the US is kind of easy to just use for me because it fits in our culture. But as several people in our group mentioned, radio is still a big tool in so many places of the world, where internet and Minecraft, which is a platform that we can use here, is not the same everywhere. So we have to keep in mind the local context, as you said. So for me, it's been such a resource to go to other Western writers, and still I mentioned in the workshop I gave Sunday that there are so many people stopping on the moral level. There are not many people, even in the West, that goes underneath to see what kind of worldview drives the stories, and how that reflects in every part of the society, because many of the changes we see today in politics, in society, they started in popular culture, mainly in TV shows 30 years ago. So if we are supposed to predict the future, we have to look at what is presented in popular culture today. Long answer, sorry.
Well, no, that's nothing to.
It's very good.
It's a lot to reflect on further there. I think this is the idea. We get some thoughts that we could develop further, each one of us, in our own context, because we choose rather to cover quite a lot of themes than go into depth into just one area. And before, Pasi, you answer the questions that you have got, there was a comment. Last year, you participated in a media research conference, you write in the chat, where the researchers no longer differentiate between radio, TV or internet, but they differentiate between the audiences, either listening, viewing or reading. Pasi, leading into you are both in a traditional television context and in the traditional radio context, but still, do you recognize, is this familiar to you, this reflection from the researchers?
This is actually a new way to look at it to me. I'm very happy that Rudolf put it up there. It's very interesting way to distinguish how people are using media these days. You can see, of course, that in secular media, that is the kind of classification that's probably very relevant. I think that Finnish people are still very much radio listening folks. There was a little confusion here in Finland when the government was considering to give some kind of ruling that they should remove radios from all the cars, from all the new cars that are sold. So all the media actually reacted that, hey, wait a minute, cars that usually the place where people are listening to the radios. So that would be disastrous for all the radio media, not only for the Christian media. I think that the power of radio is that you can listen to it on the background. You can do all kind of other things. It doesn't require same kind of engagement, like for example, if you are with your internet connection or you're listening or watching some kind of podcast, it allows you to be a passive participator in the discussion, and also it gives you a kind of a safe space to be a part of that discussion with your ideas.
So in Finland, you listen to radio everywhere except for in the sauna. Is that right?
Yes, that's probably right. That's very good. Yeah. Even maybe there, who knows?
So there were a couple of questions to you, Pasi. You got a website, have you, with the program available? Yeah.
Let me quickly show you our website. Although it's in Finnish language, it just looks like alphabet soup here. But here is Radio Patmos. This is just our new website, and unfortunately, we have only mainly Finnish programs. We do have also some English programs and programs in other languages. Like we have Arabic programs, Farsi language programs, Pashto, Afghan, and those programs are mainly broadcasted after midnight. And there's a particular reason for that, because many of these immigrants who have come to Finland, they do works like cleaning and things like that, and they do them after the midnight, and they have chance to listen to the radio while they work. So that's one reason why we placed all those programs, these foreign language programs, past midnight time. Of course, Finnish people don't listen; they wouldn't listen to Russian or Farsi language programs if it comes in the middle of the day. But there's a huge immigration population who are actually listening radios at that time. We don't have English programs.
So another question: which other formats would be relevant for Christians to create for TV and radio, besides church content? René?
I think most engaging are the call-in programs or discussion programs, and also debate formats. We don't have in our radio station debate format yet. The Radio Day has their weekly debate where they bring Christians and non-Christians debate on issues, and I think that is something which even many non-Christians would find interesting. One of our, I think, most popular hours in a week is what we call the hour of, how you call it, reporters, journalists, where we bring our own people who are doing the live broadcast. We bring 3 or 4 of them to the studio for 1 hour, and they are commenting on what is in the newspapers, and this way engaging with the wider culture and making the Christian worldview relevant to our audiences. So what does it mean that Parliament is doing this? What does it mean when something happens in television or things like that? Of course, sometimes, there is this, what I would say, very sensitive combination of religion and politics, which can be quite irritating to some people.
So one of, I here referred in the chat to Unbelievable as one of the very attractive formats for sometimes a debate concept. Thank you, John, for that.
I love to listen to Unbelievable.
Yes,
fantastic.
And there is also a question to all 3 actually about how do you draw people's attention, potential audiences, in terms of marketing, profiling. Solfrid, maybe you could start on that.
Oh, that's always the question, isn't it? How to get people to listen to what you want to say. We use social media, but we also travel a lot. We speak on conferences, so we get to tell people about the resources we have. We also speak at Christian schools, Christian colleges and high schools. So that's actually where we get the most of our viewers, because I think the best is if you get some kind of relationship with the ones you want to talk to. So it's a lot easier to gain reach when the people know you, when they have seen the persons making the stuff you do. So, but we are not experts in this at all.
it's a matter of, everyone, we are all on the learning curve, I think, in this area. Speaking, you mentioned the podcast, and Björn is also here, one of our colleagues from Norway, and also one of the discussion group leaders. And I think the most popular podcast, I think, is Björn's podcast on C.S. Lewis, the atheist who lost his faith and became a Christian, which is a wonderful, indirect way of presenting both that atheism is a faith, and that there are very good reasons for becoming a Christian. So unfortunately, that's only in Norwegian, but it's worth consulting if you get the gift of understanding Scandinavian languages and maybe Finnish. So, Tony, any comments on that? How to draw people's attention?
Yeah, the same really. It's something I used to be much better at than I am now. When life becomes very busy, it's hard to keep on top of the social media channels. So yeah, my social media has been very neglected since starting a PhD. I pop up from time to time, and so yeah, but that is the primary way of putting stuff in front of a lot of people. But as Anna Solfrid says, there is no substitute for them actually having a personal encounter with you.
Just one more point, if I may, because if you write or produce content that is kind of not just in the moment, but people can get back to it. We have seen that Björn, he wrote an article on Easter. It's been opened so many times since, because people are just searching when they are writing articles for schoolwork. They find if we can be kind of broad as well. My most opened and read article is on a Norwegian artist. He has got one hit song, and obviously many schools has used this as an exam, I think, because there are so many students Googling and finding my article and using it in their material at school. So trying to reach something that is, people will always need to find out these questions. Has been a big thing for us.